You're watching Talking Points, a focus on the political scene in Lubbock and across the South Plains.
Welcome back to the show. Here's a look at some of the political headlines of the past week. The country mourning the loss of Senator John McCain, who passed away from brain cancer at age 81, with family, friends, and constituents gathering at Arizona's Capitol and in D.C. to pay their respects to the war hero, presidential hopeful, and the man who the nation is calling a maverick. Back here in town, one resignation and a new hire. C.J. Peterson has resigned from his position as the Lubbock County Constable and pleaded guilty to driving while intoxicated. Peterson was hurt in a crash back in May when police say he failed a field sobriety test. The county commissioners will appoint a replacement for the remainder of Peterson's current term in office. But we're gaining a new deputy city manager in Bill Howerton. The tech grad will assist city manager Jared Atkinson and act as a lead supervisor for the department, helping improve the city's customer service. Well, it seems Lubbock is becoming a hot spot for politicians as Ted Cruz makes his second campaign stop here in Lubbock in just 2 weeks. KMAC's Paige Peroso was there for his fiery speech and caught up with him afterwards, too.
Beto O'Rourke is just a few points behind you in some new polls that were recently released. What are your thoughts, and is it changing your campaign strategy at all?
Well, I think there's reason to be skeptical of these particular polls, but there's no doubt we got a real race on our hands. And the reason is simple. It is clear that the extreme left, they're really angry. They're energized and they're impassioned. We're seeing tens of millions of dollars flooding into the state of Texas from liberals all over the country. Hollywood liberals are solidly behind Beto O'Rourke, and he is raising tens of millions of dollars, and they're spending it. Now, the good news is that this is still the state of Texas, and there are an awful lot more conservatives in Texas than there are liberals. Our task is simple. We've got to turn out the freedom-loving Texans, the conservatives in Texas. If we come out and vote our values, we're going to have a very, very good election in November.
Another big discussion going on right now are the debates with your opponent. Yeah. Coming up in 2 days, it got canceled. What are your thoughts on debates, and you want to keep doing them?
Yeah, look, I think it's really unfortunate that Beto O'Rourke refused to debate. Over a month ago, I invited Beto to participate in 5 debates all over the state of Texas, in Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, McAllen, and here in Lubbock. 5 debates would be the most debates that's ever happened in a U.S. Senate race in Texas. And it's unusual for a sitting office holder to want to do that many debates. The reason that I proposed it is I think we owe it to the people of Texas. There is a dramatic difference in terms of my record and Beto O'Rourke's record. His record is on the far, far left, like Bernie Sanders. It's out of step with the people of Texas, and I think the debates will focus on that. Texans want to see low taxes, low regulations, more jobs, higher wages, more opportunity. We want to secure the border. We don't want open borders like Beto O'Rourke wants, and we want to defend the Constitution and Bill of Rights. Now, unfortunately, Beto O'Rourke so far has refused to debate. I think we'll have debates. I hope we will, but it sure seems like he doesn't want to debate, and I think the reason is most of the press coverage he's been getting has been these glowing profiles that talk about him in fluffy, fuzzy terms that ignore his record, that ignore his positions, and just paint him, the adjective the press loves to use is Kennedy-esque. They talk about his hair. I think most Texans don't really give a flip about the guy's hair. What they care about is what his policies are going to be, and his policies are high taxes, high regulations, open borders, gun control, and impeaching President Trump. That's not where Texas is.
The election is just 3 months away. For now, for Talking Points, I'm Paige Peroso.
Thanks so much, Paige. And that debate was happening this past Friday between the two, but O'Rourke was quoted as saying that the debate will not happen then, but a debate is still on the schedule here in Lubbock for October. O'Rourke getting some more national attention just in time for football season after saying at a campaign stop that he did not think it was disrespectful for athletes to kneel during the playing of the national anthem. As usual, political figures, celebrities, and pretty much everyone has been sharing their own thoughts about this topic, and KMAC's Tori Larned spoke with some of them.
The focus of this country that is on them on Sunday when they're playing football to bring our attention and awake our conscience on something that is so important.
Beto O'Rourke says it's the most American thing you can do, a peaceful protest anywhere, any place. And fellow Democratic candidate for Congress Miguel Alvario says it's something we've seen throughout history.
What the NFL players are doing, what Dr. Martin Luther King did, what Cesar Chavez did in the farms, Those are all examples of the American spirit and the American legacy of trying to protect and expand our rights as human beings.
Local citizens say it's a cause worth fighting for.
I do support the fact that NFL players are standing up for what they believe in when it comes to police cruelty and just the race discrimination.
While some say O'Rourke is right, players deserve to be heard.
If I'm a teacher, if I'm a janitor, everybody has their own voice. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I have my own voice. I can voice my opinion, you know? Politics are, they're for politicians, but people can still speak on them. That's what people vote for.
Others say, like any other job, the field is a workplace, not a political platform.
And that's what you're there for, is to perform on the field and maybe speak out after with the reporters and on your personal time.
I have a son that works for the military as well, and he hasn't expressed any objection to them actually doing that. It might not be the best platform for it because it can't get the proper attention those very serious subjects deserve.
Tori Larned, KMAC News.
So here to spend 5 good minutes with us is Justin Nelson.
Hi.
He is running for the Texas Attorney General's seat against Ken Paxton. So it's good to have you here.
Thank you for having me and to talk about restoring integrity to the office of Texas Attorney General.
And I know you've been touring around the state with your message just there, especially here in West Texas, focusing on your plans to fight the opioid addiction crisis our country's facing. Talk a little bit about what you're doing here on the South Plains and that topic itself.
Yeah, we've been traveling the entire state. We've been to Lubbock. We've been all over and talking about how we can really need to protect our healthcare system and make sure that we are protecting against pre-existing conditions and making sure that our healthcare, everybody has access to pre-existing condition protections. And that includes the opioid crisis. That includes making sure that we are devoting the resources to making sure that people are getting treatment and that we're not just giving lip service to it. Opioids are destroying our families across the state, and we need to be making sure that as Chief Law Enforcement Officer, the Chief Lawyer for Texas, that we are devoting the resources to try to solve the problem. And that goes, my opponent, Ken Paxton, is filing suit right now to try to get rid of pre-existing condition protections, not just for all Texans, but for all Americans, and is using Texas taxpayer dollars to do that. That is so wrong, and that will just help make the opioid crisis worse.
Now, I know, speaking of your opponent, Ken Paxton, just one of many things you're contesting as you head into this election facing off with him. Speaking of that, though, your campaign ads have been making some waves. I know a lot taking a different approach. If you haven't seen some of his more satirical ads, the most recent one coming out, a take on a kitchen cooking tutorial, but the recipe is for something just a little bit different. If you want to explain that ad for us and why taking this satirical approach.
We're having fun with this campaign. The ad is about a birthday cake for Ken Paxton's 3rd anniversary of being indicted. Did you know that Ken Paxton is the first statewide official in Texas history to run for re-election while indicted? He's been indicted for 3 years. People ask me all the time, if he's indicted, why can he run? Well, Texas law allows you to run if you're still indicted. But it's up to the people of Texas. We are running for the chief lawyer for the state of Texas. We deserve so much better than someone who is indicted for fraud. These are not made-up charges. These are charges that were investigated by the Texas Rangers, that were in Collin County by the heavily Republican grand jury of Collin County voted to indict him for fraud, for defrauding his friends, his clients, his fellow Republican lawmakers. And that's wrong. We can do so much better.
And serious topics here, but obviously taking a comical approach to them. Often running online and on YouTube instead of the traditional television format. Why the online route?
Well, right now we're trying to get our message out there, and so we're focusing on digital right now, and eventually we'll be on television and talking in broadcasts and everything else. But right now we're doing the not through traditional 30-second formats and trying to call attention to what is a very serious issue. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absurd that we have a Texas Attorney General who is facing decades in prison. And so we're trying to call attention to that absurdity by doing things like baking a birthday cake for his 3rd anniversary of his indictment.
definitely attention grabbing for sure. Now, when can we expect, or can we expect, a debate between you and the Attorney General?
I would love to have a debate with our Attorney General, Mr. Paxton. Mr. Paxton went on national television and said that he wants debates, he wants to debate the issues, and looks forward to debating. That's a quote. And so we asked him for a series of debates across Texas, and he said no. He broke his word. And unfortunately, that's too common. We need to have someone who will keep their word as Texas Attorney General. And I'm running for Texas Attorney General to be an Attorney General for everybody, regardless of party. Your Attorney General, you should not know whether they're a Republican or a Democrat. I'm trying to take the politics out of the law and call things fairly and accurately and according to the Constitution. And what I see right now is a Texas Attorney General who is pursuing an extreme partisan agenda, who is has increased his net worth by $30,000 to $3 million during his time in public service. I will fight corruption. I will be a voice for the rule of law, and that's what we need in a Texas Attorney General.
And you mentioned the partisan dynamic at play here. Obviously, you know, in a state like Texas, we haven't seen a Democratic candidate in a statewide office like this in quite some time. What do you think it is going to take to maybe turn those tides the way that you're hoping?
I'm trying to talk to every Texan. We're going everywhere throughout the state. There's not a voter who I won't talk to. Recently, we spoke to somebody in a Make America Great hat, and that's fine. We're talking to every single voter because I think every single voter will know the choice in this election, which is who do you want to hire as a lawyer for all Texans? You don't ask the person's political party when you hire your lawyer or a doctor. What you want is someone who will do the job as best as possible. I'm proud of my career as a lawyer. I've been named a Texas super lawyer. I teach at University of Texas Law School. I clerked for 2 Reagan-appointed judges, including Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that everybody in Texas, regardless of party, has great representation in the office of Texas Attorney General.
Justin Nelson, thank you so much for being here. We're glad to have you on.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, still to come here on Talking Points, we're still waiting on a farm bill, and that deadline is getting closer and closer. Luckily, we're going to get an update from Congressman Jody Arrington up next.